Hey, dear readers. Here I am in monastery mode. As you probably remember, my trusty whip, my Dodge Caravan, was totaled. So now I have to find a new car, except that what car? I do not know. All I know is that I want for it to have a sunroof. That's all. Oh, and LED lighting too. Yeah. Um. Well, anyway, so since I really am just trying to figure out what kind of car I want, I have been truly quarantined inside my home, which has really kind of been kind of a cool experience. As I work to publish, uh, Burn This Book on October 15th, that I'm sort of like in a self imposed exile. It's really a fascinating time for me as I look inward, I look toward the future, and I try to justify my goals for the book with what I am trying to do otherwise in my life. Now, while I was kind of thinking to myself the other day, wow, I really got to think about, I'm, thinking about life and thinking about what means the most to me and whether I should wait for certain things or move on. I thought about what is perhaps the most important part of the book to me, which are the parting words, the motto of the 10,000 year plan, that I want you all to take with you as you finish the book and when you go to become a hero yourself and change the world so it's a better place. So, what we're talking about here are the 4 lines for the plan's motto. And I have 4 lines for 4 children. Mine, anyway. My 4 children. And as I wrote the motto, which was, it was written very fast. I distinctly remember just like peeling it off in like, I don't know, 15 seconds or something. Do good, do the impossible, see no one else can see, and be brave. But the actual preparation to write the motto took a rather long time. And so it is that I thought I would bring to you the inspirations for the plan's motto. Do good, do the impossible, see what no one else can see, and be brave. And yes, there's probably going to be a few tears as I go through some of these because I'm going to read for you works that are intensely personal to me, and that I find very beautiful. So let's get ourselves started um, with the idea that, I've been telling you about how you always have to think about what your reader's psychological needs are and what your psychological needs are. And while I was in this self imposed non car exile, discouragement seemed like a daily occurrence for me. And so when I was writing this last book of the plan, I wanted to inspire myself and send you, dear readers, on your way with encouragement for you to finish the book in real life. Your life. Just as I think we discussed the fact that, Picasso was asked, when is one of your artworks finished? And he said, it's finished in the eyes of the viewer. Thus, I actually have no power to finish the book. Only you do. It is finished in the extent to which you take to heart the message and you go out to live life to the fullest and try to do good in any way you can. The first line is do good is the first line for a reason. Okay, it's because everyone can do good. Doesn't have to be huge. In fact, perhaps in some ways, perhaps it's better if what you do for good, if it's a small gesture. But of course, these things are all relative to you and your time and place. So, while we are on the topic, very briefly, of encouragement, please encourage me by liking and subscribing and ringing the little bell so that you will get more information and inspiration from the heart of the great American Midwest. Okay, which pieces of English language inspired the 4 lines of the plan's motto? The first one I'm going to go to has been with me for decades. I am always moved by Milton's sonnet. But patience to prevent that murmur soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed, and post o'er land and water without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait. And, that kind of usually makes me cry a little bit because, I think about what I wait for, and it seems like I'm not doing anything, and it seems like it's a vain pastime. But that sonnet reminds me that sometimes waiting is the most important thing that you can do. Okay, so the next bit of writing, and you'll notice in these writings, I am trying to copy that very high register. What I took from these writings, half of them are speeches. I took from very high register writings with very lofty ideals and messages and phrasing, and I took the tone of these going forward as the inspiration for the tone of the 4 lines of the motto. I know those of you in the U.S. have at least heard this. From these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Okay, does everybody know which one? What's the title of that speech is? Scribbled on an envelope in a train. Of course, it is the Gettysburg Address. And when Abraham Lincoln kind of just wrote it, I think that the sense I've gotten from it is that he wrote it as sort of like a throwaway. And then, as years went on, he treated it as a living document, and he'd make slight edits to it and whatnot. So, here we talk about the idea of giving up our life for someone or something. And we're used to thinking of that in terms of death, but if you think about it, we're giving up our lives for, just as we die for something, we can live for something. So what do you die for? What do you live for? Because Lincoln is challenging us to respect and remember when our first instinct as humans is to forget and move on. And he's saying, no, these deaths, they mattered. They mattered to me. They matter to you right now, and you will matter to Americans in 2020. So I find it just really beautiful. Moving up to my number one inspiration is a speech by Winston Churchill, who we now know was embarrassed by a stuttering problem, but who wrote the following words, which could have made Shakespeare himself weep. Even though large tracts of Europe and in many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and the ocean. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. I find that very beautiful. I know Winston Churchill has gotten a lot of mixed reviews over the years as far as his personality goes. But there is no doubt that this is the kind of speeches that are so moving and memorable that they helped win a war. Okay, now this last one is absolutely my favorite. And in fact, it's so much my favorite that I have printed it out and I have it in a frame right beside my bed. So it's the first thing I see when I go to bed at night. And it's the last thing I see when I go to bed at night. It's the first thing I see in the morning. And this is just my favorite for so many different reasons. But what I'm going to do now, because this original speech was rather long, I'm going to hop around the speech to the points that I find most moving. The next speech is John F. Kennedy's Moon speech at Rice University. Now here's some quick context. Russia was killing us in the space race, and Kennedy used this speech to get Americans to spend money on rockets and NASA and the like. He should have said that the money was for coffee, and we would have fought to put the checks in the mail. But no judgment here, as I get distressed if I don't have extra caffeinated coffee to start my day. Okay, so Kennedy has to give us one of the speeches of his life because he's got to push through millions and millions of dollars. And I don't even know what it would be in today's, certainly billions. Of course, when has that ever stopped the United States? Here's what Kennedy said. But why? Some say the moon. Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon this decade and to do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. Now let me stop here. The joke referring to the Rice-Texas football rivalry is, which is still going on today. If you ever look at a clip of this actual speech, you'll hear the audience laugh a little bit. But what we don't know is that although the Rice-Texas rivalry was really competitive when Kennedy made his speech, Rice has only beaten Texas in 1965 and 1994 since Kennedy's speech, which adds a layer of meaning that was not anticipated back then. For more than 4 decades. Or 5 decades. Why would you keep playing a foe that has only lost to you twice? Why do you keep doing that? And I quite frankly think it's more beautiful that they keep doing it and lose than that they win. But I'm going to move on to another part of this. William Bradford, speaking in 1630 of the founding of the Plymouth Bay Colony, said that all great and honorable actions are accompanied with great difficulties, and both must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage. Okay? Now, again, I'm copying this very high register, very super formal style that Kennedy's speechwriters have been producing for him here. The speech is heavily undergirded with a lot of Latin rhetorical devices. Let's see, I think he says, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, which, you can just imagine, the race, and Latin. And so, it's one of the reasons why I like it, because they're taking that stately pomp, of Latin, which was one of the roots of our civilization, and they're using that to impress an audience, a university audience, a relatively well-educated audience. So let's pull back a second, and while I've got you here, please comment below on what motto you consider most inspirational. If you like my plan's motto, if you find it inspirational, or you want to inspire you or others, check out my merch shop below. Links in the description, as I've printed this 4-line motto on several cool pieces. Back to Kennedy. Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there. Well, space is there, and we're going to climb it. And the moon and the planets are there. And new hopes for knowledge and peace are there. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessings on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure, perilous structure, on which humanity has ever embarked. Thank you. All right. So now you know why I'm inspired. So I hope I can do that for you. It's okay to pull apart the motto and just take one of the lines to apply it to your life. I quite assure you that the second one, the second line is quite possible. Do the impossible. So I want all of you today to go out there, do good, do the impossible. See what no one else can see, and be brave.